Turn it up. There we go. Another 9:05 when we are in here this morning. Boy, it's been a morning. Let's back the light down a little bit. A bit much. There we go. So yeah, day in the life, man. Was pulling a print this morning, and I think the machine ruined the FEP sheet. So yay, time to reinstall another FEP. Makes me mad. Oh my god, it makes me mad as hell because that FEP sheet was just installed like 3 days ago. Whew, I do not like seeing those go bad. For anyone who doesn't understand, in 3D printing and resin printing, you have a little vat, okay, a little container that holds your resin, and it's like a frame that has a clear sheet in the bottom of it. That sheet's called a FEP, and you pour resin in there, and a plate comes down, sinks down into that to just like a hair above it against this apparatus underneath it that shoots light, right? And it shoots light in the shape of whatever your layer is going to be. It's going to burn that resin and cause it to cure. And so it basically cures the resin against this plate through that FEP sheet. And then the plate pulls that up. Well, sometimes resin gets stuck to that FEP sheet for a variety of reasons. And you have to empty the vat, and you have to strain it, and you have to clean it, and you have to go through all this junk. And sometimes it leaves divots and flaws in the FEP sheet. That means you have to change the FEP sheet. And that sucks because those things are not cheap. I mean, they're not super expensive, but they're just annoying. They cost just enough to be annoying that you end up having to change them. And I'm really aggravated right now because I just changed that FEP sheet and I had a print go bad in it. And, you know, what do? It's part of it. So, yeah, that's been my morning. So I'm running just a little bit late, getting up and rolling here. Oh, we got Gina in here this morning. Hey, Gina, how you doing? So, yeah. Oh, been not fun, So, anywho, oh. Let's see here now. Where we at? So today's creature, kind of analogous to a Cambion in D&D. As you guys know too, you know, like the stuff I'm doing, just for the record, is not. I'm not trying to like. I'm not doing D&D's creatures. I'm taking the monster manual and I'm using their monsters as prompts, basically. Like I'll pull some of the description from something. Some of the stuff I do might be kind of close to them. Some of them might be pretty far off. It's just whatever. But I'm basically building a whole new monster manual that is stuff that like I actually have a friend who I play D&D with, who we're talking about actually, you know, writing up like brand new stats for all this stuff. And in the end, once this is all done, I don't know. We're thinking about doing a you know, like a homebrew D&D book out of it. So I think that'd be kind of cool. You know, for those who don't know, there's a fantasy setting that I've had for a long time that I work in. That I just, for the sake of creativity and kind of doing my own thing, a long time ago, I came up with this setting. It's really rich, really in-depth fantasy world that I have written a lot. There's a lot of writing that I've done in it that I've never released anywhere. For those who follow like the work that I've done over the years with Poser and Manga Studio, you know, with content for those, for a long time there was a product line I had called the Fantasy Races. I was spelled R-A-C-E-Z. I had branding stuff, you know, that kind of thing. But excuse me. So I had the Fantasy Races and did this You know, had orcs, trolls, ogres, goblins, dwarves, and then lots of other like monster races, you know, dragons and other sorts of things. And some pretty wild stuff that I came up with. It was kind of just, you know, stuff that I just kind of dreamed up, like this thing called a Triceratops. It was pretty neat. So what I'm doing here is basically walking through the monster manual of D&D and saying, okay, in the world, the name of the setting is called Urith, and in the world of Urith, what would be analogous to all of the stuff from the D&D monster manual? You know, from the world of just standard D&D. So it's kind of, you know, basically my riff on D&D. By the time it's all done, it should end up being able to be, you know, obviously everything will have 3D assets made of it, which then means, you know, I will have miniatures available of all of it, and there will be, I'm leaning towards, I'm not going to say 100% that there will be, but I'm thinking that as I release those miniatures, that there's a good chance that the stuff will get D&D stats released with it. There's also, because I just had a conversation yesterday that finally clarified for me a bunch of legalese. There is a very, very good chance that a lot of this stuff will also be released in the form of Daz Studio products, which I'm super, super excited about. Very, very excited about that. Because then that means, you know, folks who follow what I do with Daz Studio, I really don't do anything with Poser these days. Poser's a dead format. But you know, folks who follow what I do with Daz Studio will be able to purchase and use you know, posable, animatable forms of most of the stuff I'm making here, you know, for their own artwork and renders. And you know, and if you're into gaming and you want to be able to do things like illustrate your, you know, like you do if you do a battle report, or you do a, you know, a write-up. Some people like to do little write-ups and summaries after a session to kind of help, you know, carry on their story that their group's doing. You know, then if you're using any of the creatures and stuff that I make, then you know, you'll be able to use renders and stuff of those. Or if you just want to use them as analogous to different things in D&D or Pathfinder or other, you know, fantasy worlds, that's fine too. But so anyway, I think it's kind of cool. It's sort of an evolution of a thing that I've done for years with making, you know, stuff that's my own sort of take on classic fantasy worlds and all that. So anyway, let's see who's in the chat right now. We got Gina and Sean. Let's see. Sean says, moment of silence for Poser. It had a good run. Yeah, Poser did have a good run. But, you know, a good thing can only take so much mismanagement. Oh, yeah, it can only go so far. Boy, I've been on the inside track of that crap for too long. There are stories I could share, but I'll just be good. Oh, Lord. All right, so where I'm going to start off today is I'm actually going to start off over in Daz Studio for just a moment. So let's switch over there. Cool. And this little guy you see in here is not a Genesis figure. And you can see that from the wireframe on him. This is actually a figure that I built. You'll notice he has a little bit cartoony proportions and, you know, hands and feet a little bit big, that kind of thing. This figure is built kind of as a composite of a lot of different takes that I enjoy on human figures from miniatures. Okay, so like if you take this guy and you zoom out, when you get out there where he's, you know, small, imagine this, you know, 28 millimeters, 30 millimeters tall. Those cartoony proportions look good on a table. And this guy is built as my posable buck for making minis. So, you know, he's fully posable inside DS. I'm tempted to release him and the female version of him that I don't have in here right now, but there's a female counterpart. So I'm tempted to release those in some format. I don't know. I really don't know. So I would actually like to sell them at DAS, but you know, I don't know how receptive they would be to carrying these. But, you know, one way or another, I don't know. Well, I'll end up... I have to be very careful about stuff because I have a great relationship with Daz, and there's no way I'm stepping on that. So if these just remain personal use, then they'll just remain personal use. Because really the point of them is for making miniatures. They're really not intended for broader stuff. And Daz Studio is just the format that I'm using for the rigging, because I like the way the auto rigging works for transferring clothing onto things. So, you know, that means like if I want to do a set of villagers to print and have for gaming, then, you know, I can make the clothing for that stuff super fast, toss it into Daz Studio and just pop it on these figures, or just send the figures, you know, send different poses of these guys over to Zbrush and work from there. So it's got a use, and it's interesting because I think it's a use for Daz Studio that a lot of folks don't think about. So but I'm notorious for stuff like that. So, anywho, what we're working on today is called, it's really kind of analogous to a Cambion in D&D. I'm calling it a Fiend Spawn. So I'm going to send this little fella over to Zbrush, and then we will switch off to Zbrush. Okay. And for my my Fiend, I'm primarily going to focus on just sculpting some new features onto this guy. And actually, let's send him over. Nah, that's good. We'll keep it at that resolution. I have him designed with quite a bit of resolution built in. So I'm going to basically just take him and sculpt out some shaping on him that I would use for putting a morph on the figure. That way, once I have that, I'll have that morph saved over in Daz Studio. So then if I wanted to do different Fiend spawns, then I could have that shape I dial up on him, but then be able to do different poses and stuff like that, mix and match from other clothing that I might build for these mini bucks. It's going to give me a lot of capability that otherwise, you know, you just don't quite have going straight with sculpting in ZBrush. So I'm going to start off with storing a morph target, and I'm going to play with his proportions a little bit. Now, keeping in mind this is for miniatures and not like what I would normally do for the high res, you know, the Daz Studio crowd. It's kind of nice in a way because I can focus on the broad strokes. I can focus on, you know, the larger areas and just big details without having to get real deep in the weeds with stuff. And it makes it possible to knock out something super quick that will make for a great miniature. So I want to give him some more exaggerated features. Maybe give him some nice pointed ears. And keep in mind too that if you're sculpting for minis, it does need to be exaggerated. And also, I want a little extra thickness on things. I don't talk about this stuff that much in the mornings with the sculpt, because most of the time I'm just doing, you know, very pure creature concepts. But something like this that I want to use for minis, that comes from a human buck, you know, I really want to address that stuff and keep in mind, you know, it needs to be thick enough that it's going to hold up well when it prints. So I'll zoom out quite a bit, take a look at it. Let's also look at proportions on this character. So maybe we'll play with some of that a little bit. That's one of the other things that's nice about Daz Studio for something like this is, you know, it's like there's a lot of things built into Daz Studio that I don't think people think about as stuff to be used outside of just on Daz's actual figures, the Genesis figures. I mean, the stuff obviously is optimized to hell and back for those figures, which is great. But, you know, a lot of that technology works on original figures too. Which is kind of, you know, it's really always been my bread and butter is original figures. So, you know, it's nice for me. It's nice. One of my favorite things in Daz Studio is being able to use that auto rigging to transfer rigs from my figures into add-ons that I want to do for them. So, quite often I will end up with, you know, a creature that, say it's a mount, and I want to be able to have all kinds of straps and armor and, you know, some kind of tack and harness and things like that on it. Well, having that in Daz Studio means I can use the auto rigging there as a big jump start to get a lot of that work done so that stuff can sit on top of a creature. In this case, the creature is just a humanoid that's kind of proportioned and set up, you know, it's kind of optimized for use as minis. So, but once we transfer this stuff as a morph over into the figure in Daz Studio, well, you know, we can also use, there's a feature in there where it'll transfer the positions of all the joints to the new shape, and there's some cool stuff in there. Like, I think that because so much of Daz Studio's use is for hobbyists, maybe the broader 3D professional community kind of doesn't give it its shot, doesn't really necessarily look at it for what it's capable of. You know, we were talking about Poser a minute ago, and you know, honestly, there's a lot of stuff that Poser always sort of tried to do and promised, and you know, the folks at Daz have, over time, I mean, it took some time, but over time, man, they've come up with something that really satisfies a lot of those needs, and I dig it. So I use it as a production tool for more than just making stuff for Daz Studio. I'll use it for stuff that's going to go into, you know, a lot of other outlets. So, Daz, if you're watching, I'll take my cut. Daz, if you would like to sponsor my videos, you know where I'm at. Sponsorship is welcome. So I'm just going to go in and kind of knock in some simple anatomy points. I may end up doing it at a higher resolution, which, you know, full disclosure, the HD plugin for doing morphs and all that kind of stuff, you do have to be a PA at Daz to have access to that, so sorry. I mean, there are some ways that you can use higher res meshes and use high res stuff in Daz Studio you know, as a, you know, not a PA, but you know, there are workarounds for it, but there is a lot of functionality missing if you go down that road. So I'm trying to keep this really without like res down so that I don't have to do that stuff though, because I don't know, it just seems like overkill on something for a miniature. Want to grow them, the scale on that just a little bit. There we go. So, now, if I want to lengthen his legs, you might think about it in terms of grabbing the legs and lengthen, you know, pulling them down, stretching them from their root. But I'm going to lengthen them going this way. That way, as I do it, I'm keeping the feet pinned to the ground. So now that character is going to get a lot more height. You know, at some point, I'll probably do a set of morphs to go on my human bucks for, like, you know, ectomorph and mesomorph and the different body types. But for right now, this is fine. I do want to let everybody know there will be no stream on Friday. I have a funeral I have to go to, and that sucks. But it is what it is. I might, I'm not going to commit to it verbally yet, but I might try to do a video that I do a scheduled video drop that day, so there's something that goes out that morning. But if there is anything, it won't be live. So. Okay. And even though I didn't talk about it the other day when I was working on it, when I was doing my bugbears, bugbears, I need a better way to pronounce that. Bugbears, the bars. When I was doing those the other day, I was also, those were working from this human base of mine. Okay. Auto group of UVs. I can get in here to these teeth really easily. I am going to address the teeth, even though you know, they don't show right off. Again, since I'm doing this as a morph on something that I have rigged, if I pose it, you know, if I put a facial expression on it, well, then the teeth will come through. And so I want to make sure that I give those a little something there. Okay. Now let's just add some kind of spiky brow stuff to it. And I've been trying to print my bugbears. I ended up doing like 5 different poses on them with a bunch of different stuff added on them, and I have had failed prints on those over and over. I think I overdid my surface details, and I was trying to print stuff that was too small and causing all kinds of crazy issues, which is wild because, you know, the printers can do down to like 0.5 microns. Crazy. But I'm gonna have to well, I have addressed that and went back and done some work on that sculpt a little bit, or those sculpts, and sort of touched on those. But I've had other stuff going on that has prevented me from testing them out and pushing further on that. There's some cool things going on for the studio, by the way, with printing. That before too long, I may end up needing to actually search out someone who is just like a setup tech, who's just an expert at doing setups, because I am not. I am not. My setup ability, you know, my setup methodology is a lot of trial and error. I'm following a lot of principles I know and things like that. But man, I would love to find somebody who just loves doing that and is dedicated to it. I doubt I'm going to. I'm probably going to end up just, you know, still pushing on that myself, like so many other things. But, you know, if anyone knows anyone who is, you know, experienced at doing support setups for a variety of things in resin printing, I would love to have somebody I could hit up personally. So that is going to give us a nice sculpt to use as a morph. So I'm going to go ahead and transfer that over. Okay, so now in here, that should show up right here. Shoop, there we go. Then I can go into my joints and adjust rigging to shape. Boom. And it's going to move all those bones to follow the new mesh position. Then I'm going to freeze it to that morph. Boom. Very cool. All right, so now let's save this as a morph asset. And since this right now is just internal, it's okay that I don't have any of this stuff correct. I really don't know. I mean, I might end up, I don't know what I'm going to end up doing with this figure. It may never see the public. It may just sit here and be something I use internally. But now that I've saved that asset, now I can do all kinds of wild stuff with it. So, there's my human. So, since this is kind of a demon spawn, a fiend spawn, if you will, I'm going to add some wings to it. And I'm going to work from the original human shape here. So let's go. Let's make a duplicate that I can pull stuff from. And then on this duplicate, I'm going to now go into sculptress mode and just brush over an area here so that we get some more resolution on it. Of course, that did shrink that a little bit, so I'm going to just project it so that we're back in exactly the same space. Okay. Then I'm going to make a group from that selected area. And that and that. And then delete hidden. So now I have this back area that I'm going to use for pulling some wings out of it. Okay. So then from here, let's mask off that. And I'm going to a good spot to do that from. Let's get right there. Group it. Add some edge rings to it. Now I'm going to come to the side with everything else masked off. And just pull all of this stuff out of here. And then come back over it in sculptress mode. Right. Now then, let's do a Mesh Extrude Pro and see where we get with that. That's not what I wanted, but okay. That's also not what I wanted. Dang it. That's what I wanted. Okay. And again, we're going to keep some good thickness on this stuff so that it will be printable. I'm going to also close holes. That's going to close up this area inside here. And then I'm going to extrude that in a little bit just so I have a thickened mesh right there. And now it's time to Dynamesh it. So let's see where we go with that. I want to go a little higher resolution. A little higher resolution. There we go. Okay. Now then, I'm going to take a snake hook, go up to the top here, and pull a little something out of there. And I am going to take a second to pop over to the chat. See, still Gina and Sean. Bugbears! That's right. Hey, look over here, Gina says. Tell Zbrush about the mapping issue where it turns everything inside out and upside down. Yeah, I've talked to them about that, Gina. I've mentioned that to some folks a couple of times. So yeah. Sean asks if my Cthulhu figure is original. Yes, Cthulhu is 100% original. The latest iteration of Cthulhu, because there's actually been three. I've done 3 Cthulhus through the years, and the last one was collaborative with my son a few years ago. And little secret, you're going to be seeing him come back soon in a new way. So, can't let the cat out of the bag just yet on what's up, but mythos and Lovecraft stuff was super, super important to me and my studio and my business for years, and I kind of set it aside to go into other things for a long time. Well, it's coming back. It's coming back. And not for Dad's studio, not for anything like that. So there's some wild stuff coming. Maybe about a year out before you see the results of it. But some really cool stuff in the works. So let's get back to it. Gina, the person I would tell you to talk to about that problem with ZBrush, by the way, is a guy named Auric, Aurick. If you're in the ZBrush Discord, you can catch him in there sometimes. I've talked to him a few times. And I don't know if he does tech support for Pixelogic or not, but he's super cool. And yeah, he's very helpful. He's helped me out with some stuff in the past, so you might want to talk to him. Alrighty. Well, I am going to ditch half of this for a moment so that I can work more easily on either side of this wing and do it at the same time. So, neat little trick is if I just show this part right here, which looks like it might be almost symmetrical. If I turn on local symmetry and then I turn on my symmetry, it's going to allow me to sculpt on that both sides basically at the same time. So let's come in here, just drop basically some markers. So there you can see how that works out. Really, really handy that way. I think I do want to keep my clip curve up there. Okay. Then we can pop back over and do a mirror and weld. Got to turn that local symmetry off. So there you see what we're getting there. And I'm also going to turn sculptress mode back on now so that I can just refine some of this a little bit more with that. Okay. There we go. I think that's going to give me a better shape to work with here. Delete by symmetry again and turn off. Oh, no, don't do that. Mirror. Now we're going to delete by symmetry And turn that back on. Okay. It's not. Oh, that sucks. All right. Dang it. Excuse me. Lord, that was awful. Okay. Well, you know what? You know what we're going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of that little base area right there, because I can spread out a new one. And we're going to mirror and weld that. And just work with it like this for a little bit. Oh, that's a happy accident right there. Gotta be careful not to get these areas too thin if you want to go to some kind of printing with it. Alright. I'm just going to go ahead and work like this for a little bit. That's going to give me a chance to get some nice little details added in. That's going to give me some nice little ridges there that will translate, like once it's printed and able to be like dry brushed and all that, that stuff will look like, you know, skin stretched over the digits of the wings. And I think I'm going to pull a little trickery up here with this and just sculpt one of these little ends. Then we'll make an insert mesh out of it and pop that in elsewhere. Dang it, come back here. A nice set of wings like this could be useful too as a starter for other kinds of characters based on my human buck here. So it's kind of nice to get that, you know, in hand. I'm going to keep a lot of that that sort of texture that ends up happening from the clay brush. And then to really build up even more of that skin look, I hold the Alt key and draw with the damn standard. You know, the same way that it cuts in, it's going to pull a sharp cut out, and I really like that look. Let's just refine some of this stuff here a little bit more. Just more defined shapes. Try to give some impression of something that makes a little bit of an anatomical sense. Smooth some of that back a little bit. Okay. Now then, it's coming up here in the top. And let's make a new insert mesh brush from just that area there. And yeah, you can just hide mesh and select an area and make an insert mesh of just that. Very handy. Now I should be able to come down here and do that. And I'm just going to pop these in and then come back and make the wing mesh meet up with it. So if I do merge similar groups, these should all go together now. Or actually just do auto groups, then merge similar groups. Now these should all be together, so I can mask them. Then I'm going to use my move brush to just move this stuff down to where it intersects a little bit. And let's close holes. I'm going to inflate a little bit around here, inflate some spots, reduce some spots, just generally kind of manipulate that all together, and then dynamesh it. Let's go a little higher resolution now. Okay. That right there will work out really well for a miniature. And that really is my primary goal with these minis. I mean, I can always take a sculpt for a miniature and then push it into a more realistic light later. But I'm starting out from that sort of mindset. Come back in, just add some more sharp little lines right there, but That's not bad. Okay. And I think I'm going to move that over like so. Turn that off. And let's slice right down through that. So now I can take this group and extrude a couple times. Blur that blur the masking that ends up on there. And I'm going to pull kind of a flangey base out of this. Oops. Might not want to do that just yet. Good morning. I'm good. I am live right now sculpting a fiend spawn. Basically just demon dude. Nothing special. I am joined off camera at the moment, y'all, by the lovely Miss Janice. Say hi, Janice.
Hello, everybody.
Hello. She's here. And that's Mr. Heisenberg. He is like professionally grumpy. I love that dog. Alright, now let's spread some of this in here. Spread, spread, spread. No, don't want to do that. Turn that off and do that. Okay. Let's project that. I said, let's project that. Dang it. Dang it, Bobby. Sometimes that projection business just does not work out the way you want it to. That's not bad. That's not bad right there. Let's push that on in. Really don't want that to shrink so much right there. Okay. Alright. Like that's going. Cool. Okay, of course, there's a whole process I'd go through with this to take this over into DS and rig it, which I will be doing, but I'm not going to do right now. Where I'm going to go at the moment is back to this guy and switch him up like so. Then I'm going to come back here, store a morph target, and just pull that up so I can kind of get a look at it on him. So there he is at a neutral pose with the wings on. Gina says, one day it'd be cool if you took a figure like this with Dynamesh and weird topology and show how you make it DS compatible with groups and all that stuff. If I want to take a break from this series, I might do a few videos about that at some point. It's not a hard process, but it's a process that can go a lot of different ways. So a lot of times when you show people that, it's like you're teaching it, because I've taught a lot of people how to do that. And when you teach it, there's no way you can teach it and not be teaching to task. Meaning, like if I teach how to do that, like with these wings, it's going to be for these wings because it's always unique. There's some generalisms that you can get out of it, but there's a lot of little stuff that I'll pull, little tricks that I pull along the way that make things work really well for me. That will, it's weird. It's weird. I'll pull stuff together in funky ways in different situations. So there's a lot of situational pivoting and just a lot of small strategies that get put together in different ways. I think of it kind of like the same way I think about karate. My sensei would always say, there's no such thing as advanced karate. There's just basics done in different combinations. That's true. And it's the same in this. And you have to learn those basics. And there's not that many basics to do, but they can go together in so many wild combinations that's where the trickery ends up coming in. That's where it gets kind of tricksy to figure out how to do things like that. So, but I'll try to make sure that I step off and do that from time to time. I think I'm leaning back off camera right now too, so I probably need to change that. Because I end up leaning back to God knows where sometimes. So anyway, that's something since people ask for it, I'll probably get into that at some point. Where do we want to go now? Let's see how we're doing on time. It is 10:05, so do need to wrap this up pretty soon. I want to add some kind of molded miniature worthy hair onto this, and let's give it some quickie pants, maybe. Go there. There we go. Let's do this. I want to give him some torn up pants, so I'm just going to use Sculptress to like shrink this stuff back inside the legs, and then we'll use a mesh splat. And let's raise my Z intensity on that. Just gonna carve this stuff right back into there. This is actually kind of like if I were sculpting with green stuff. You know, I had a base and then I wanted to add pants or something onto it. I'd slap some of that on there and then carve these kind of shapes. Cut them around it. All that kind of stuff. Some thickness on that. And we can. There we go. Okay, I dig that. And then let's do, I'm going to do something really funky here real quick. Let's take this guy and subdivide him a couple times. And then we'll take a masked pen. And I'm going to do some masking here. And I haven't done this a whole lot, but I'm pretty sure this will work. I'm actually going to do some fiber mesh on there. This is going to be fiber mesh not intended to go down to like little strands in the end. It's going to go towards some thick tubes that'll then dynamesh into a sculptable sort of hair. So let's grab all of that. And then go fiber mesh. Very Lincoln looking right there. And let's go down to our settings. Modifiers, here we go. Don't need a whole lot of strands. I want maximum coverage. Profile to be, let's go with 4, so it's a tube. Skip that note, please. Oh, and we got our first crash today. Thanks, Zbrush. Thanks. Yep, because, you know, because that's been the name of the game today. That's been the kind of morning I've had. Straight up. Straight up. Yesterday was a great day. All kinds of cool stuff going on. So I guess, you know, the balance is, you know, today had to have some poop. Just some raw poop. Let's look at our width profile on this. There we get some nice choppy, spiky hairs. That almost would go well on a mini right there. Let's up the segment count. And Change that coverage just a little bit. That's going to affect the thickness of those tubes. Okay, and I'll accept that. And no, I don't want to activate fast preview. So, nice thing about this is that since this is fiber mesh, the roots will stay in place. So, I'm going to turn on some symmetry and really just use mostly my move brush. And especially for minis, you know, I'll use move and inflate quite a bit. So we can inflate that stuff out. If we want to make that nice long hair for this guy, just pull some of that stuff around. Okay. Like that. So now you can take a move topo brush and grab like individual segments of this. Okay. And once that stuff is all in place, I'm going to inflate it a little bit more so I know I've got some thickness on everything. Then we're going to be killing a lot of the, well, we're going to kill all of the fiber mesh capability of that here in just a second, because I'm going to mirror and weld it. And I'm also going to close up the holes on it. And that's going to make it react like this when I start smoothing on it. I'll make those root areas peel back, which is fine because I'm just going to push those into the model anyway. Now, I'm going to brush over these ends here with some smoothing. Not too much because I don't want tons of little tick marks sticking out there. They're going to leave little dings in a vat. Come back in with an inflate brush. Stuff like that. So from there, there's a lot you could do with this. I could really kind of go nuts on it. Maybe save that for another time even. So if we subdivide that a couple times, you'll see we get all those nice tubes out of it. Those will translate really well into to hair on a mini. And then once it's subdivided, we can do more with it to shape it and thicken parts of it so that they'll actually print well. Yep. So there we go. I'm gonna call that maybe a day. Let's see. I don't like leaving things looking incomplete, incomplete. So let's add a couple more something. Just something on there to balance them out. Yeah, some nice little bracers on here. I feel like that's pretty good for a final look for this guy this morning. It's such a character type that it'll end up getting a lot of different clothing and stuff for it. There's a lot of stuff we could do with that, so do a quick render, check it out. It's not bad. Not bad. Let's get our morning turntable. Nice. Alright. Well, that's gonna close this up for the day. Didn't go too far over, which is nice. I really have to try and make sure that I don't run over my times too much because, God, I'm so busy right now. It's crazy. So let's pop over to the chat real quick and see if anyone has any questions or thoughts or just see what everybody's talking about. Gina says the grooming brushes are poop. They sort of. They're just finicky. You just gotta use them, just play with them. Sean says ZBrush fall down, go boom. Yeah, ZBrush falls down and goes boom a lot. Thankfully, it pops right back up with the, with the auto saves and all that stuff. So a lot of times that's helpful. So, all right, well, folks. It's been nice having you guys around this morning. I think I'm probably going to go fix a FEP or something along those lines. That sucks, but, it's part of the deal. Anyway, thanks for hanging out. I hope you dig the sculpt this morning. And as always, remember, like, share, subscribe, hit the bell. Go to 6s1.com to sign up for the newsletter and keep up with all the groovy stuff we got going on. So, until tomorrow morning at 9:05, I will see you later.